Okay, so picture this. A honey, really rare, incredibly potent. People whisper about it. They say it's an aphrodisiac, sometimes a medicine, even a poison.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes. It's meant to give you this kind of psychedelic experience. Today, we're doing a deep dive into this mad honey high up in the Himalayas.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because this isn't just like a myth or something. We're actually looking at a first-hand account here. Someone went to Nepal, deep into the Annapurna Mountains.
Right.
To really get a handle on the Gurung people who have this tradition of, well, frankly, incredibly dangerous climbs to harvest this stuff, to understand what it means to them.
Okay, so let's start with that journey. The source talks about heading to this Gurung village, Telachipla. Yeah. And it wasn't easy going.
No, definitely not. Challenging terrain, a real climb.
And what jumped out at me right away was this contrast they described. You had the visitors, in all their modern hiking gear.
Vortex and everything.
Exactly. And then the Gurung guides helping them. Some were just in, like flip-flops. But carrying these heavy loads totally at ease on the paths.
Yeah, that contrast, it really hits home, doesn't it? It shows their incredible connection to the land, something built over, well, generations.
It really does. Signals their deep knowledge, their advantage there.
And the account mentions this welcoming ceremony, too. With Roxy, that's the traditional millet drink. But here's a twist. Despite being so remote, you've still got modern tech. Cell phones, even Facebook are part of their lives.
Wow. So it's that mix of old and new, right?
Exactly. Tradition and modernity kind of bumping up against each other in these really interesting ways.
And central to that tradition, of course, is the honey hunting. This isn't something new for the Gurung.
Oh, no. It's passed down generation after generation. It's way more than just food or, making some money. It's part of who they are.
Deeply embedded in their culture. So let's talk about the honey itself, specifically the spring harvest honey. Why is that one so special?
Well, that's the one that's described as being both nutritious and intoxicating. And the key, it comes down to the pollen from certain rhododendron flowers.
Rhododendrons, right. I read about that.
Yeah, these specific flowers contain a compound called Grayanotoxin.
Grayanotoxin.
And that compound, it interacts with your body's sodium channels in a particular way. That interaction is what leads to all these unique physiological effects people report.
Right. And the Gurung themselves, they have their own understanding of it. Our source says they describe it as a tightening of the blood vessels.
That's the description.
And they're very careful about how much you take. Really cautious. No more than half a spoon, generally.
Which tells you something about its potency.
Definitely. Now, here's something really interesting. Not just anyone does this. You can't just decide, oh, I'll go honey hunting today.
No, absolutely not. It takes incredible strength, bravery, and you have to be really physically fit. It's a select group within the community.
That selectivity just underlines the danger, doesn't it? And the skill involved.
Hugely. And it's also interesting how they view their relationship with the bees. They see the honey as this gift from nature, like a sweet goodness they receive.
A gift.
Yeah, and they feel they can't really give anything comparable back to the bees, but the bees just keep returning to these cliff hives. It's sort of a natural cycle they respect.
So before they even start the hunt, there's this preparation, a ritual.
Yes, a really important one. The source describes the groom in the village performing a religious ceremony. It involves sacrificing a chicken.
Okay, why the sacrifice?
It's to ensure the safety of the hunters. They're appealing to what they call the cliff gods.
Cliff gods. So local deities or spirits protecting those specific cliffs.
Exactly. It shows this deep spiritual connection they have with the environment. And let's be honest, an acknowledgement of the very real risks they're about to take.
Makes sense. And then the scene at the top of the hill, just before they descend, it sounds pretty intense.
Oh, yeah. Almost chaotic. Bees are already buzzing around everywhere. People are putting on these makeshift bee masks.
Makeshift masks. Not exactly high-tech protection.
Yeah, not at all. And bizarrely, someone's apparently cooking frogs nearby. It's quite a scene. And then, bam, a camera person gets stung almost immediately.
Wow. Just highlights the danger right from the start.
Totally. And here's an interesting Gurung belief. They think that if the bees are really aggressive, it means the honey will be particularly potent.
Ah, so more stings might mean better medicine.
Kind of, yeah. Because they primarily use it medicinally. The source mentions them taking a spoonful in tea twice a day, just for general health.
So it's not recreational for them. We might focus on the mad aspect, the psychoactive stuff, but for the Gurung.
It's about health and tradition. They're very clear, the source says. They don't consume this to party.
Right. Okay, so the hunt itself. How do they actually get down these sheer cliffs?
With incredible ingenuity, they build these bamboo rope ladders, really intricate construction.
Just imagining climbing down a bamboo ladder on a cliff face. It's like, wow.
It's precarious, to say the least. And then they use smoke. They gather leaves, burn them, and use the smoke to try and calm or drive away the bees. These aren't small bees either. They're huge Himalayan honeybees.
Massive bees, smoke, bamboo ladders. This is intense. We get introduced to one hunter, Ashton.
Yeah, Ashton. He's got about 10 years of experience. And what's striking is his attitude. He mentions there's no, practice run. You just start doing it.
Just jump right into this incredibly dangerous job.
Pretty much. And Ashton points out it's not something people do just for fun or because they have to. It's because the skill and the courage are highly valued by the whole community. They really respect the honey hunters.
And it's teamwork now, right?
Yeah.
Not just one person dangling alone.
Increasingly, yes. The source mentions that maybe historically it was more solitary, but now you see younger hunters learning the ropes literally alongside the experienced ones.
So one person might be cutting the combs from under the overhang.
Right. Carefully cutting them free, while others are positioned below with baskets trying to catch these heavy honeycombs.
That coordination must be critical.
Absolutely. It's a real passing on of knowledge. And even processing the honey afterwards is meticulous. They separate the pure honey from the wax and even the bee larvae.
Bee larvae too.
Yeah. And there's another figure mentioned, Ashbahadur, an older hunter.
Ah, yes. He can't climb anymore.
Right. Physically, he can't make the climb, but he's dedicated to teaching the younger guys, passing on all those techniques.
That feels so important. He stresses that if they forget how to do this,
they lose a huge part of their culture, their identity, which really makes you think about how vulnerable these kinds of unique traditions are.
Especially now with younger generations maybe having other options, education, moving away.
Exactly. It makes passing on this difficult, dangerous skill even more crucial for keeping their heritage alive.
Okay, so then the moment of truth. Tasting the mad honey.
First, they try the fresh honeycomb. And apparently, it's just sweet and really tasty. Surprisingly normal, maybe.
Okay. But then the liquid honey itself.
Similar consistency to, strong honey you might buy in a store, but with a noticeable slight burn going down.
A burn? Interesting. And then what happens?
Well, the effects start creeping in. The account describes it as a mild buzz at first. Kind of like maybe taking a couple of hits of cannabis.
Okay, a familiar reference point for some.
Yeah, but then it gradually gets stronger, and the person sharing the account actually shares the experience with one of the porters, Durga. So it becomes this kind of shared, unfolding sensation.
What does it actually feel like? A description sounds really unusual.
It does. They use the phrase icy hot. You know that muscle rub?
Yeah, that weird cold, then hot feeling.
Exactly, that simultaneous feeling of being cold and warm. And there's even a comparison to a low dose of psilocybin mushrooms.
Really? In what way?
Things like muscle tension, but also feeling kind of loose and tight at the same time. It's clearly a very unique physical and mental state.
Definitely not your average honey on toast experience. But beyond these weird effects, the source really stresses the Gurung's reverence for the whole thing.
Absolutely. It's not just about the buzz or even the honey itself. The hunt, the tradition. Yeah. It's woven into the fabric of their lives.
They even mention invoking deities during the hunt. Hail to Shambhu.
Yes, Shambhu being another name for Lord Shiva, it underlines that spiritual dimension again. It's a sacred act in many ways.
And there was that comparison one Gurung person made.
Right.
Between the honey and hashish.
Right. Saying the honey gives a quicker, maybe more grounded experience than hashish. Just another perspective on its effects.
Interesting. And ultimately, what do the Gurung want? They seem keen to share this tradition.
Yeah, but not in an exploitative way. They want the world to know about it, to understand it, partly to help ensure it survives, to get recognition for this thing that is so precious and culturally vital to them.
That makes a lot of sense. And the visitor in the account, they felt a real connection, promised to go back.
Which speaks volumes, I think. Witnessing something like that, respecting it, it creates a bond.
So, pulling it all together, this mad honey harvest, it's this incredibly risky ancient tradition, unique to the Gurung in Nepal.
And yes, it has these intoxicating effects because of the Grayanotoxin from the rhododendrons. We can't ignore that.
But for the Gurung, it's so much more. It's medicine, it's spiritual, it's tied to their identity, passed down despite all the dangers.
Right. It really makes you appreciate all the facets, the danger, the unique experience, but maybe most importantly, its role as medicine and this living piece of Gurung heritage.
Which leaves us with a question, really. Something for you, the listener, to think about. In this world that's getting smaller, more connected, how do unique, maybe challenging traditions like this actually survive?
And what responsibility do outsiders like us have when we encounter these kinds of deeply rooted cultural practices? Something to definitely ponder.